Hey everyone, SweetJohnnyCage here. Today I want to talk to you guys about World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth. I also want to do a recap of World of Warcraft Legion. I had made a video when that expansion was first announced, talking about my expectations and predictions and how I was feeling about World of Warcraft at the time. And that's actually what inspired me to do this video. When Legion was announced, I wasn't out of World of Warcraft. I just wasn't playing that much. I was pretty down on it, I will say. Warlords of Draenor just was not fun for me. Really didn't care for it. And I wasn't expecting a whole lot from Legion. So yeah, I kind of wanted to go through the list of stuff that I had spoken about with Legion and see where we came up. I'll link the video in the description below. It's on my other channel before I had made this one. So I'll link that below if you're interested in seeing what I was talking about. But let's do a quick recap. So the number one thing that I was talking about were communities. And communities in World of Warcraft had largely gone away in the previous expansions ever since the end of Wrath with the advent of Dungeon Finder, especially Raid Finder and Cataclysm. I was really hopeful that by adding Dalaran as the city, or bringing Dalaran back as the hub city for Legion, would help bring communities back. I don't know if that goal was accomplished, if I'm being totally honest. I felt part of a community a bit, only because I was doing Mythic raiding for, I think, like the first 6 months of the expansion. I stopped in Mythic Nighthold on Crosis, so I think like March is when we gave up, or when the guild split up. So there were communities for me, but I still think that server communities are largely missing unless you're doing Mythic raiding. And Mythic raiding was not something that I had done before Legion. I had done Normal and Heroic, in Cataclysm, but as far as Mists and Warlords went, I didn't. So I really wasn't part of any sort of community. But Mythic raiding and Legion definitely made me feel like I was part of something in a guild again, which was nice. So the next thing that I spoke about was that Legion would be the second to last expansion. And I don't know if that's... I would say that I was wrong. I will say that, but I don't know how many more expansions there are. It still feels like World of Warcraft is pretty old at this point. It came out in 2004. It's now 2018. So in November 2019, when Battle for Azeroth will probably be coming to a close, it would be 15 years old. So I'm not sure if it is the last expansion, or Legion was the second to last. I really don't know. I think I was wrong. I hope I'm wrong, only because Legion kind of rekindled that love of World of Warcraft for me. But we'll have to see. I really don't know. The third thing that I spoke about was working with Illidan. The reveal for Legion was Gul'dan finding Illidan in the Vault of the Wardens. And, we did work with him. I said that he wouldn't be a raid boss. I guess I was technically half right, only because in Mythic Gul'dan's encounter, you do fight Illidan when he's possessed by Sargeras. So he's sort of a raid boss, but not really. In the end, he, kills Gul'dan. So I guess I was right. But we definitely did work with Illidan. He, led the charge in the Tomb of Sargeras, and, brought Argus to us using that keystone. And, led the charge on Argus. So we definitely worked with him. He was like the main quest giver on Argus, along with the Draenei guy, Prophet Velen. Him, Velen, and Turalyon and Illyria were the main quest givers aboard the ship. I think they did a really good job with him. They definitely redeemed him, especially that last quest after you kill... the Titan, and after that last raid boss, you get his memories, and you go to Tyrande. She still wants nothing to do with him. It's still hilarious. But they definitely redeemed him. I thought they did a good job with him. Fourth, I mentioned that Kul Tiras is missing from the Broken Isles, and to me, it felt like resurfacing these Broken Islands. It made sense to bring back Kul Tiras, and they just never did. So I'm really glad to see that they are in battle for Kul Tiras is in battle for Azeroth as the Alliance hub. At least I'm hoping it's the Alliance hub. It seems to be. So, I'm glad it's back. It was missing in Legion, though, and it wasn't in the expansion at the end. So next I moved on to the NPCs that were showed on that website, the Legion preview site. The number one thing that I spoke about, or the first character that I spoke about, I should say, was Xavius. And Xavius played a huge part in the Night Elf lore for the first 4 expansions, kind of behind the scenes. If you read the Storm Rage novel by Richard Knack, Xavius was kind of the villain of that novel, and he was keeping Malfurion kind of locked up in the Emerald Nightmare. So I was worried that they would not give him a good treatment. I feel like they did a good job with him. I don't think he was utilized the best. His raid encounter was very disappointing, especially on Mythic. There was barely any changes from Heroic, and I think we killed him on like the 3rd try on Mythic. Like, it was not difficult for us at all. That said, in the Zone of Val'Sharah, he played a huge role, especially in Darkheart Thicket. He was taunting you the whole time, especially for the last few quests in there when you're in the corrupted areas of Val'Sharah. I think they did a good job giving him a presence and making him a villain that you wanted to fight against. And this is something that they started doing, I guess, in Wrath of the Lich King with Arthas. And there were a couple of quests in what was the first zone? Howling Fjord, where you would see the past memories of the Vrykul, and you would see how the Lich King kind of like tempted them and kind of created an army out of them. And, you know, the Lich King was sort of like ever present in Northrend and in every zone that you're requesting in. So I feel like they did a good job with Xavius in this zone, as well as the other zones each had their own main villain. But Xavius was, I think, the only one of those villains to turn into a raid boss. So that was nice to see. So the 6th of 13 things I'm talking about. I said that Darion was going to die. He did. That was one of like the earliest predictions I made of Legion. So I'm glad. I mean, it sucks that it came true, but I'm glad that I was right. And it's exciting to see how Anduin's going to rule. You know, he's very much under the influence of Gen Greymane as well as Matthias Shaw of SI7. So I'm not sure early on in this expansion how he's going to be as a king, if he's going to strike out on his own, or if he's just going to keep getting information from his advisors and keep just kind of going with what they want to do. I think that's a pretty easy character development for Blizzard to make of him. You know, make it so in the beginning of this expansion, he's kind of trying to, you know, just appease everyone around him. And then towards the end of the expansion, he'll strike out on his own, make his own decisions. So the 7th thing was, again, Greymane having a huge role. That was one of my predictions. He did up until a point. He was very much present on the Broken Shore invasion at the very beginning of the expansion. He watched Varian die. He took the letter to Anduin, and then he advised Anduin throughout the expansion. And then he went after Sylvanas, and, you know, with the help of the Valkyr, and he kind of like had that showdown with her. But then it just sort of ended, you know, like he crushed the lantern that would have given her control of Aegir, I think the Vrykul, the Valkyr's goddess's name was. Maybe it wasn't Aegir, I don't know, whoever it was. He crushed that lantern that she got from Helia, and then that was sort of it. You know, the whole thing just kind of fizzled. So I don't know what's next for them. Gen and Sylvanas are both very much present in the cinematic trailer for Battle for Azeroth. So hopefully they kind of rekindle that fight and we see what happens next. I also said that Sylvanas was going to die. I was wrong. Vol'jin died, which was crazy. I mean, he was war chief for like 15 minutes. That was just nuts to me. And it's unfortunate. Now, there are rumors that Vol'jin will come back as a Loa, and, you know, he may, you know, get resurrected. Who knows? But I was just kind of surprised, and I'm not really a Horde player. I have played Horde, and I do when necessary for raiding, but I don't know, just kind of a letdown, you know? Like, it sucks that he's gone and that Sylvanas is war chief. I don't think Sylvanas makes a good leader. I think she may make a good, like, commander of an army, but I don't think that she makes a good faction leader. And I think that's really what's needed for something like this. You know, especially, like, you know, this war is going to be all fun and games, you know, in Battle for Azeroth, but afterwards, like, she's never really led the Horde in any major way. You know, she just sort of led the Horde's... She didn't feel like a leader of the Horde in Legion, whereas, you know, the Alliance was sort of being guided by Prophet Velen and Illidan, and the Horde didn't really have much of a presence, it felt like, at least to me. All right, so the ninth and maybe the biggest gripe that I had with Legion at launch was the artifact weapons, and I'm still not a gigantic fan of these. Now, that said, I do think there were really good things that they did with them. For example, Ashbringer was the biggest problem that I had. I really hated the fact that Ashbringer existed as a a weapon that everyone would have, especially considering how it was handled in vanilla when you had to get the corrupted Ashbringer, and then there was a quest line to bring it, to purify it, bring it to Scarlet Monastery. Then it sort of left off, saying, when we step through the Dark Portal, maybe we can do something else with it. And now everyone just sort of got it. So I thought that sucked, honestly. I really didn't like that. That said, though, what they did with the artifact weapons, and we haven't seen how they are leaving yet. We know that they're leaving, but we don't know how yet. But what they did with them was pretty cool. I liked all the quests for them, especially the appearance quests. I grinded out the Purified Ashbringer, or whatever it was called. Shadows of the Past, whatever that skin is for Ashbringer, whatever that quest line was called. I grinded that out. I fished for like 2 weeks. I got it, no problem. I actually wound up playing a Shaman for the vast majority of Legion, and my Paladin was my alt. I'm going to try to switch back to my Paladin, though. But yeah, I grinded it out just to have it, just to carry it over into Legion. So something else I thought, and this is number 10 of 13, I thought Illidan would survive. I thought that we were going to go with him to Argus in the next expansion. I did not, and I don't think many people did, expect to go to Argus in this expansion. I thought I said that really weird. I thought there was going to be 3 raids. We would have Emerald Nightmare, we would have Nighthold, we'd kill Gul'dan, get Illidan back, and then we would go to the Tomb of Sargeras, and then, we would kind of like open the portal into Argus from there, and then, it would end, and then we would have the next expansion where Illidan leads the charge into Argus. That all sort of happened in this one expansion, which is insane. And it's one of the things that I love about Legion, is that it gave us so many unexpected things and just kept going, and they kept adding more and more content. In previous expansions, I think starting with Mists, you had your intro zones, like your 5 zones, and then they added a zone or 2 at the end. And, we got the Isle of Thunder, which I think the landmass was always there in the beginning of Mists, but we didn't get the portal to go to it until they released the Throne of Thunder raid. And then we got that we got the Timeless Isle, as well as the Isle in the north for the dinosaurs. Like, they sort of added these small things. In Legion, however, we got an entire new world with 3 new zones, which was just nuts. That was absolutely crazy to me. Plus, we got the Broken Shore being expanded into a full zone. That was really just used for the intro scenario into Legion, then sort of ignored. You can go there to get the underwater jellyfish mount, that hidden quest line where you gotta like touch all the orbs and talk to the orc. That old god kind of quest line, which I did, which is a great quest line. Fathom Dweller is the name of the mount. But other than that, like, hidden quest line, Broken Shore just was nothing. There were high-level NPCs around, or high-level mobs around to just kind of kill you and get you off. But then they, built it into a full zone with a full story that led into Tomb of Sargeras, and they gave you Argus. Like, it just kept giving and giving and giving, which was great. I think it's one of the best expansions ever. Along the same vein of working with Illidan in the next expansion, going to Argus, I thought that we were going to bring the Scourge with us and wake up Bolvar 4 Dragon and, say, hey, we need the Scourge. We go to Argus, we wipe them out and leave the Scourge there. That didn't come true, obviously, and it's probably not going to. I levied, this is 12 of 13 here, so we're almost done in the recap section. I felt in the beginning that this was kind of thrown together. I felt like Legion was a mishmash of Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King. I was wrong. I really sincerely was wrong, and I was worried about this expansion, and from day one I loved it. I thought the quest grind was great. I thought each zone had a great storyline to offer. I felt like all the dungeons were really well put together. I loved raiding, which is something that I haven't loved since, I think, like, Firelands. Like, Dragon Soul killed my vibe, just killed the vibe of raiding for me. I really never came back after that. I think I did High Maul one time in Warlords, but I actually did the opening raids of Mist. I totally forgot. I did like those 3 dungeons, those 3 raid dungeons, and then just stopped again. Like, I never did Throne of Thunder. I think I did the first boss, and that was it. And Warlords I barely ever raided. So I guess what I'm trying to say is Legion brought me back into the fray in a big way, and I was really I was upset that my guild broke up on Crosis, and drama happens as guild drama always happens. And I tried for another month to get back into a guild. I tried until about April, you know, because I knew Tomb of Sargeras was coming in a couple months, and I was like, I really want to finish Nighthold, even if I don't do Tomb. Like, I really want to finish this and get another cutting edge under my belt, and I just couldn't find a guild. So, long story short, this is not a thrown together expansion. Legion was great. Finally, the other thing that I said was I didn't know if I would have time to raid, and I was wrong. When I made that video, I think I was like 26 or 25. I was still living with my parents. And, you know, I hadn't moved out yet. I was working in Manhattan. Like, you know, I kind of hadn't gotten my life started yet. And since then, I've moved out. I live in the Carolinas now. And, like, I was on my own. I have a girlfriend that I live with. And, like, worked out a raiding schedule like a grown-up. It was, you know, I actually took it very seriously. And I played the hell out of my Resto Shaman and raided for a good few months until the guild broke up. So, and I'm glad I did. Maybe I'll try again in Battle for Azeroth. You know, we'll have to see what happens. Okay, so that's it for the recap of Legion. Let's get into Battle for Azeroth over here. This is the main site. Like I said, the opening, or this title screen sort of thing is very reminiscent to Warcraft 1, Orcs and Humans. The cinematic trailer, you can go watch it. The features trailer is kind of outlined in here, so I won't go through those. So, first thing we see is recruit allied races, and you can do this now by pre-ordering the game digitally. I'm a physical collector, so I won't be doing this. I still have a couple of the reps to grind out, and that's actually something that I wanted to talk about real quick. I feel like the Alliance kind of got shafted on this, and the reason I feel that way is because the Horde, they get their allied races on 2 reps, the Nightfallen and the High Mountain Tauren. If you get exalted with those reps, you get to create characters as the allied races. I have had those reps exalted since, I think, late 2016. Like, when did this come out? Like 2016, 2017? Let me just double check something here. Oh, sorry. $2016. Okay, yeah, great. I'm not crazy. Kind of forgot what year it was. Yeah, so I've had these reps exalted since, like, I guess, like October of 2016. So, you know, having stopped raiding after Nighthold, my armies of the Legion fall, as well as my Argusian Reach and armies of the Light reps are like, I think Army of the Light is revered, this is honored. So I have a lot of grinding to do, and I feel like a lot of people do as well. You know, people who kind of like dropped off halfway through the expansion like I did. And the Horde just kind of gets the easy one. And it's just like, damn, come on. You know, kind of got shafted there. But like I said, like if you pre-order physical, you don't get these. I think you might be able to like reach out to Blizzard and have them do something for you maybe. But moving on, Jaina Proudmoore. I'm a League of Legends player too. Jaina Proudmoore is back, which is pretty cool. She was completely absent from Legion aside from the first like 10 minutes when Khadgar is putting together the order again in Dalaran. So she's back, and for good reason. She is in Kul Tiras, which we finally get to see, which is great. Kul Tiras is going to be the Alliance side of things, and Zandalar is going to be the Horde side of things. But we see 3 zones here, and unfortunately I wasn't able to find a map from the alpha just yet. But we have Tierguard Sound. This looks pretty similar. This looks like a cross between Stormwind and Howling Fjord, and you know me, I love my Wrath of the Lich King, so Howling Fjord's great. This is Dustvar, I think? Drustvar. So it seems like a canyon-y kind of place. Nice sunset there. Skull and crossbones on the cannon. Pretty cool. And then this place is Stormsong Valley. So we'll see what these are about. Kul Tiras is a hero of the Might of the Alliance. Journey to the seafaring kingdom of Kul Tiras, home of Jaina Proudmoore. Untangle a web of betrayal and dark magic as you encounter power-hungry pirates, witches wielding death magic, mystical sea priests, and more. Explore the stony peaks of Tierguard Sound, trek across Drustvar's high plains and red forests, and navigate the intricate inland canals of Stormsong Valley as you convince this fractured kingdom to join your cause. Alright, so moving on, we have the Horde Empire of Zandalar. We have Zuldazar, Nazmir, and Vol'dun. Or Vol'dun, not sure how you say it just yet. These look pretty sick. This almost looks like a Swamp of Sorrows, which is really nice. Cool. Alright. Description reads, prepare the Horde for war by recruiting the ancient empire of Zandalar. In this troll-dominated territory, ancient evil waits to be unleashed on the world as you battle crazed blood troll worshippers, gargantuan dinosaurs, and titan constructs. Discover Zuldazar, the oldest city in Azeroth, unveil the bleak swamps of Nazmir, and traverse the deadly deserts of Vol'dun. Cool. So, I would have to imagine that the Alliance starts in these zones and eventually gets to these zones, and the Horde does vice versa. I'm hoping, because if BOA or BFA is anything like Legion, leveling alts is going to be really shitty. I know it's like the first profanity that I've given in this video, but like Legion was not friendly to alts, and that's to me that's a strike against it because of how much stuff there was to do in Legion, especially for the classes. So I'm hoping it becomes easier to level alts, or you at least go to these other zones on your main, which could be cool. Plunder uncharted islands. Set sail for the previously unmapped Isles of Azeroth. Battle in groups of 3 as you race against cunning rival intruders or enemy players to collect the island's resources. Constantly evolving challenges await as you traverse frozen landscapes near Northrend, open the gates of an abandoned Gilnean castle, navigate a war between elements and elementals, and more. It's pretty nice. Waiting for more Gilnean stuff. I think it'd be pretty cool. We actually see some maps down here. So it actually looks like these scenarios take place like on the continents, sort of. I think I'm looking at this one wrong, or I just don't know what I'm actually looking at. Anyway, moving on. Storm the warfronts. Head to the front lines and take part in a large-scale 20-player cooperative warfront to claim a key strategic location. Build up your faction's forces, lead the charge as your troops lay siege to the objective, and battle the enemy commanders as they make their last stand in this new PvE mode inspired by the classic Warcraft RTS battles. Truth be told, I don't know much about this. I'm wondering if this is like some sort of raid encounter for other sorts of gear. I have to look into it some more. So this is interesting. Infuse armor with Titanic Might. Take control of the Heart of Azeroth, a legendary neckpiece entrusted to you by Magni Bronzebeard. Imbue it with Azerite, an invaluable resource that's emerged in the Legion's wake, to customize your armor with new powers and traits. So, Legion's legendary system was not liked by most people, myself sort of included as a Mythic Raider. I didn't pay a ton of attention to them, only because I know that the encounters were not balanced around legendaries, and it would have been dumb for Blizzard to do it. Not saying that it didn't make things easier. Jonat's Ring on a Resto Shaman was pretty sick. There were really good legendaries, but they're sort of doing away with them now, it seems like, and we're all just going to get a legendary neck piece that we can upgrade. So it's sort of combining the legendary system as well as the artifact weapon system, and combining them and getting it together. So hopefully this works out better for everyone. I will say, though, for Legion, one of the biggest problems that I had with the artifact weapons was grinding them. When I was applying for new guilds after mine broke up, one of the reasons I couldn't find any guilds is because my artifact weapon wasn't up to what people felt like it should have been. And that's simply because I didn't have the time to grind it out, and it sucked. So I was really happy to see the change that they made, I think, when we went to Argus, where I think that's when it was. But the change was that instead of leveling up your artifact weapon, through order hole resources and doing all that, it just leveled automatically. Like, the artifact knowledge went up every time. I'm sorry, you still had to level your weapon, but the artifact knowledge would go up on its own, making it so, like, if you couldn't play for a few weeks, you were able to catch up much easier. And that was my problem, was that, like, I didn't have time to grind it out, but, like, the artifact power items that I was still getting weren't rewarding me as much as I wanted them to. So they made a good change in the end, but it kind of, my ship had kind of sailed at that point. Anyway, so I hope this is better than the artifact weapons. I hope it works out better. Enter a world divided. Experience a relentless conflict at the heart of the Warcraft saga. Play through 6 new zones filled with new world quests, new world bosses, new raids, and more to determine whether the Horde Alliance will shape Azeroth's future. New level cap to 120, dungeons and raids, character boosts, and communities. So, yeah. Beta test coming soon. I know it's going on right now. I haven't gotten in. Obviously, I'd be making different videos if I did. But yeah, so as far as predictions for this, I don't know. I sincerely don't know what to expect from this. I don't think this is the last expansion. I know there's going to be some stuff with Queen Ashara in this one, who's, aside from old gods, are kind of like the last. She's kind of like the last old character to be dealt with. We've dealt with the Lich King. We've dealt with the Orc Chieftains and Warlords. We have dealt with the Legion. I do think, though, at the end, that the way that they are bridging these expansions is great now. I really sincerely do. At the end of Legion, Sargeras drives his sword into Azeroth and scars Silithus. And the sword is still there, and there's quests that you can do around it right now to kind of wrap up the story. And Azerite is like a mineral that is coming from the ground that the Horde and Alliance are mining as a resource of power. So with that said, given that Silithus is where Ahn'Qiraj is, and that's where Cthulhu is, and old gods never really die, I think we may be getting old god fights, which would be really, really cool. There was a raid encounter in Emerald Nightmare. Oh god, I forget its name. Anyway, it was an eyeball that you had to fight, and it said stuff about old gods. It was definitely very void, old goddy, and there were a lot of weird predictions made by that voice. Like we would venture to Nyalotha in the Ring of Stars or something like that. So hopefully we get some cool old god encounters. I'm just very hopeful. It seems like Legion, kind of did mix Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King and made a great expansion that kind of played on our nostalgia, but built on it with new systems and, really upped the ante and made for a great experience in the past couple of years. So it seems like for Battle for Azeroth, they're trying something new while maintaining, those systems that were built on in Legion. So it's sort of like, certain games have sequels where, the base game's really good. The sequel might try something crazy, may not work out, so the third entry goes back to what made the first so good. So it seems like we may get something like that for Battle for Azeroth, where they're going to keep what made Legion great and just build upon it for Battle for Azeroth and see where it leads them. As far as major character deaths, I don't know. I really hope Sylvanas dies. I don't think she's a good war chief, and I'm not just saying that as an Alliance player. I just don't think she makes a good leader, but we'll have to see. It also wouldn't surprise me if Anduin dies, and that's sort of like an out of left field thing, but I don't know. I feel like at the end of this, the world's going to be pretty shaken up, so we have to wait and see. I'm looking forward to this, and I'm saying that with emphasis because at the end of the Legion predictions video that I did, I was sort of wishy-washy, but Legion ended on a really, really high note for me, despite me not doing Mythic Raids anymore. And I think the way they handled the story was great. I was constantly surprised by the new content that they were adding, especially Argus. That was so insane. And yeah, it seems like they're just going to, do more of the same great stuff with Battle for Azeroth. So that's going to do it for me. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. I've got really busy with work the past few months, so I haven't been able to make many videos at all. My Mario Odyssey guides kind of got cut short because I got so busy. I would like to go back and finish them, just to say I did them. Crash Bandicoot videos are still doing great. YouTube's partner program change kind of screwed me. Can't monetize my videos anymore because they don't have 1,000 subs, despite me having 6,000 watch hours, which is crazy. But yeah, be sure to follow me on Twitter at SJCage. Subscribe to me on YouTube, and I'm gonna be doing more videos now that work's kind of calmed down a bit and I have a bit more free time. But yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.